everybody is floating the rumor that Tom Brady could find a way to play quarterback for the Raiders, because we now know that he is a minority owner for Las Vegas. Do you think there is any way that Tom Brady sneaks into the quarterback rotation, or do you think he is officially done?
He is officially done, and the NFL is not going to let this happen. They absolutely will not let this happen, because if you look into the intricacies of what's going to take place here, first of all, that deal with him to become a minority owner of the Raiders has not been approved just yet. It's still going through the approval process. So the thought is what the NFL will do is we let this deal go through, but as part of this deal, Tom Brady is retired. They're going to put that in as a stipulation. And then what will happen is if for some reason Jimmy G doesn't go, his foot doesn't heal the way it should, and Tom Brady wants to come back, what will have to happen is the NFL will have to have unanimous approval to allow him to play, because that initial stipulation will have been in place. So the hurdles that Tom Brady would have to overcome to start for the Raiders, I just don't think are realistic at this point. And all it would take is one owner to say, no, I don't want this to happen. So yes, it's a possibility, but it's very improbable.
Also, can Jimmy Garoppolo get a break from Tom Brady? My goodness, is he going to follow him around everywhere? I also wonder, what their dynamic is like, because I do remember hearing reports out of training camp that Tom Brady, always wanted all the snaps when he was in New England and Jimmy G was the backup. But also, I saw the pictures where Tom Brady would take the backup quarterbacks to, the Kentucky Derby. So I don't know what the dynamic is there. Do you think Tom's going to impart some wisdom to Jimmy G?
Tom is the one who did not want Jimmy G in New England and made sure he got shipped out. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. I wonder if they'll even talk.
I don't know. I think the competitiveness will be pushed to the side when he owns the team. I think there are a lot of competing trends here, because we know one of those trends have been the Nuggets at home. And they have a great home court advantage, not only because they have great fans, but also because of the altitude. And it's going to be an adjustment for a Heat team that has had a very difficult path to the NBA Finals. They had to go in through the play-in. They've played much more games than the Nuggets have had to play, who the Nuggets have been kicking their feet up after an easy sweep of the LA Lakers. Meanwhile, the Heat and Celtics went 7 games. But also the other trend here is the Heat have been outstanding in game ones, even on the road. They have won 3 straight game ones on the road against some pretty formidable opponents. Going on the road in game 1 in Milwaukee, winning that one. Won game 1 in New York against the Knicks, and then won game 1 in Boston against the Celtics. So I don't know if this is the coaching advantage at play here, where Eric Spoelstra nails the rotations from the jump, but that's been a trend we've seen in the postseason. So especially when you're getting 8.5 points, I think even if it's not making me play the Heat, it's taking me off of the Nuggets. So it's either a no play, or I'm probably taking the 8.5 with the Heat.
How much emphasis do you put on a golfer who is a member of a certain club or has a history at a certain track? I feel like that's a big deal.
Big deal, Jenks. Absolutely. I mean, any advantage. When you get to this level, a lot of the guys say, if you play a couple practice rounds, if you have a scorecard, you can kind of manage your way around the course. But it's like we see with the Masters every year, right? Like guys who have played that course 15, 20 years, they kind of know the spots to miss it. They know where to drive it. They know where you absolutely can't go. So the fact Day's a member there, and he's obviously played it in his free time, and he might know certain parts of certain holes better than other guys, I think is a huge advantage. And like I said, I mean, the fact that he's playing some of the best golf of his career just to me makes him a great play this week. So I think there's good value, and I like him. I think he's going to have a nice week.
But now we got a final set in the NBA and NHL.
Right. And now my next question, as somebody who's not a hockey gal, is there any kind of advantage that the Panthers have? The fact that they had a sweep in their series coming into the Stanley Cup final, as opposed to, I guess the Golden Knights didn't have to go to a game 7. So I guess that's one thing that goes in their favor. But I know that hockey is an extremely physical sport and an extremely physically demanding sport. So are there any advantages going into the Stanley Cup final that you can see just from, the jump?
Yes, I think the Panthers. I think the Panthers have two things on their side. A is rest, and we talked about this in the NBA. If it were, there's no real pattern. If you look at the history of the NBA Finals or NHL Finals, it tells you, if you have more rest, you come out more rusty. Essentially, at this time of year, particularly in hockey, like you're talking about, which is such a physical sport, you're bumped, you've got bumps, bruises, you're injured. So anytime you can get the extra rest, that is huge. So that's a huge boon for the Panthers. And then secondly, Chelsea, there's just something about the Panthers. No team has more confidence. No team has more momentum than this Panthers team that has knocked off every single stellar team, from the Bruins to the Leafs to then the Hurricanes. Each team they beat was either the favorite to win the Stanley Cup or became the favorite after they knocked out the previous favorite. So there's no question in my mind, if you're Florida, you're a team that feels like you can beat anyone. And frankly, they've proven that they can. If you look at the early numbers for NBA Finals MVP, Nikola Jokic is your favorite. No surprise there, minus 300. Jimmy Butler, plus 350. Jamal Murray, 12-1. Bam Adebayo, 40-1. Caleb Martin, 50-1. And Michael Porter Jr. at 200-1. Hell, I'd put a sprinkle of Michael Porter Jr. just for funsies at 200-1. But
no.
Is there any value in this market at all? It feels like to me it's Nikola Jokic or bust. Yeah, I can make a case for Jimmy Butler at plus 350, but I don't want to lay minus 300 with Nikola Jokic.
What about Jamal Murray? Because he's been averaging like 30 points a game, and say he makes a clutch three. And part of the reason why Jamal Murray has been so good is because he's had these epic fourth quarters. So the only person I think that can take it away from Nikola Jokic if the Nuggets win is Jamal Murray. Like, it ain't Michael Porter Jr., I feel like. But also the sabotage factor is maybe the Heat win. Maybe you put a sprinkle on Jimmy Butler, because we saw in the Eastern Conference Finals, Caleb Martin had an incredible series, but yet the consensus is this is Jimmy's team. Jimmy still has the more points. Jimmy has been the mouthpiece for the confidence level for the Miami Heat the whole time. So I think the writers would give the slight lean to him. So I think if it's anybody for a value play, it's got to be Jamal Murray.
Yeah, I agree with you. Also, Nikola Jokic can be very good, not spectacular, and Jamal Murray could go off and the Nuggets could still win the series. But Jimmy Butler has to go off. There's no way that the Heat win this series at all unless Jimmy Butler plays like he's been playing throughout the postseason. So for me, it's either Jimmy Butler or bust if you're talking about the Heat.